thank you everyone who is here. And I see we have over 100 attendees in the waiting room already, but we want to be conscious of everyone's time and want to get started. So thank you so much for attending tonight's event. All right, like I said, welcome. Thank you all for attending this year's Women's Leadership Panel event hosted by Add2. We're really happy to have you here for this important event tonight. My name is Callie Quinn. I'm a senior client strategist over at True Media, and I am one of the co-directors for this year's event.
Hi guys, I am Grace Peach. I am the other co-director. I'm going to go back into mute for a second and kick it back over to Callie. I am a senior growth strategist at Element and couldn't be more excited to be here.
Awesome. Before we begin, I certainly want to thank our sponsors. First off, we have our gold sponsors, Element, Broadhead, Periscope, and Cole McVoy. Additionally, we have our silver sponsors, True Media and Bold Orange. And then our bronze sponsor, Whitebox. Without their financial support, we would not be able to have this event tonight. So we really definitely appreciate all the support and love they've given us and the awesome Instagram takeovers they've been doing this week on our page. And really, without their support, we wouldn't be able to have this event or any of our various events throughout the year as a nonprofit organization. So on that note, for those who aren't familiar with us, Add2 is a part of AdFed, and this is our local chapter of the American Advertising Federation of Minnesota. Add2 specifically focuses on growth and career development for those under the age of 32 in advertising and marketing. The Women's Leadership Panel specifically is one of the first cornerstone events of our year. And as I mentioned, both of these organizations are nonprofits. So without the support of our sponsors, and of course, all the people like you here tonight, we wouldn't be able to have these important events. So let's talk about tonight's event. This is a really important event to us. And the purpose are, I think we all can agree that the last year has been a lot, the last 2 years even. And undoubtedly, mental health is something that has taken quite a hit. So whether it was due to more social isolation or the blurring of lines between work and home, everyone's lives were impacted in different ways. And although the struggles with mental health are not something new to our industry, right? This is an industry that often has high burnout, high turnover, and very high expectations. Women in particular are often held to different standards than their male counterparts. So we thought what an appropriate topic and timely conversation for our panel today. A few housekeeping items just before we begin. First and foremost, we definitely encourage you all to be participating in the chat. I already see that we're going to have a lively bunch, which is awesome. That really helps our speakers feel the love since we can't be all together in person. But definitely also encourage you, there's a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to ask any questions to the panel, please be sure that that is where you put them, and then we will be able to pass it on. Next, mental health is a serious topic, and some of the discussions that we have tonight, some of the items we may cover, you may feel overwhelmed and need to take a break. And we totally encourage that, and it's totally okay. We will be sending out a recording of this event should you want to watch it back at a later time. We also will be sharing out resources after the event. So if you want to continue the conversation with a mental health professional, we definitely encourage that as well. Last but certainly not least, of course, we want to thank our speakers, and I will not steal Grace's thunder before she introduces them. But one of the things that we just want to make sure that we say, we're going to be talking about some sensitive topics tonight, so that if a speaker doesn't feel comfortable answering a question, we just ask that you respect their boundary, as coming and speaking about mental health and sharing their experiences takes a lot of courage. And we're so thankful to have them with us today, because literally, if they were not here speaking, we would not have an event. So definitely appreciate all the hard work. So with that, I'm going to have Grace take it away and introduce our speakers.
Awesome. Thanks, Callie. So starting tonight, we've got a great lineup of speakers for you guys. I'm so excited to hear from. I've gotten to kind of chat with all of them and really just can't wait to hear what they have to say tonight. So you'll see kind of here, we've got 6 speakers. I'm going to start with introducing our keynote. In a moment here, we'll have her speak first, and then we'll kind of circle back to introduce individually each one of our panelists that are pictured here as well. So that said, our keynote speaker tonight is Liz Georgie. I hope you guys have heard of her. She is awesome. She is the co-founder and CEO of Suna. She is a complete badass and entrepreneur. She has an Emmy Award under her belt. She's a vocal advocate for women in startups. And, you know, Suna, if you haven't heard of them, definitely check them out. They're the world's first virtual photo shoot platform. So really cool work that they're doing over there. She's the creator of the Candor Clause, an open source legal disclosure for dealing with discrimination in venture capital. She's doing some really phenomenal work, and I think has an amazing speech prepared for tonight. So without further ado, would love to introduce Liz Georgie. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are here. You have taken this time from your evening. You have taken this time from what you could be doing watching Netflix on the couch. You have taken this time for yourself to actually spend some time thinking about yourself, your leadership, your opportunities, your mental health. And so the very first thing I have to say to you is thank you, thank you, thank you for taking time for yourself. When women and women identifying individuals take time for themselves, invest in themselves, the world pays dividends. We get to experience your greatness. We get to experience your joy. We get to experience your success. And I, for one, hope that after I've completed my keynote this evening, you will walk away from this evening feeling even more inspired, even more excited to invest in yourself, to invest in your mental health. And in fact, I believe that when we invest in our mental health, we generate something called mental wealth. And that mental wealth can show up in your life in so many wonderful ways. So if this is resonating with you this evening, as our wonderful host told you, if you can just give me some love in those comments as we are spending this time together, as you are taking this time for yourself, that will let me know that we are on the right track, that we are saying the right things, that we're moving in the right direction together. So thank you. I appreciate that reaction. I appreciate that love. You have learned a few things about me already. My name is Liz Georgie. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Suna. And many people have come to know me as an entrepreneurial badass. If you go look on my LinkedIn, my title says media entrepreneur and general badass. And let me tell you, I earned that general badass title. That was not a title that anyone could just give me in any job. It was not a title that I was going to land on a workable, employment site. I earned that title through hard work, through dedication, but also, and this is what tonight's talk is all about, I earned that title through self-love, self-appreciation, and for believing in my aspirations as much as I possibly could in the sight of naysayers, in the sight of haters, in the sight of people who didn't think things that were grand were possible for me, and in appreciating myself and loving myself and believing in myself enough. I believe I earned that title of general badass. I believe that I earned that title of being a media entrepreneur. So many of you might know my company, Suna. Suna is a virtual photo shoot platform, and I encourage you to check out Suna, but tonight is not about Suna. Tonight is about the things that I did, the things that I brought to my life, the self-love and the self-affirmation that I brought to my life that made it possible for me to walk out into the world and say, I have an idea. I want to chase that idea with all my heart, and I want other people to join me in chasing that idea. And so when we think about what I want you to walk away with tonight, what I want you to feel empowered about tonight, I want you to just take a moment wherever you are, if you're in your living room, your kitchen, your car, your bedroom, your office, at home, wherever you are, I just want you to take one moment right now and just center in on yourself, center in on your heart, center in on your breath, center in on your mind, and just center in on your gut, the gut feelings that are so unique to the female experience. I want you to center in on those experiences, on those parts of yourself. And I want you to just start this evening with a thank you. Thank you, mind. Thank you, heart. Thank you, gut. Thank you for giving me the bravery, the tenacity, the ability to show up every single day as a person with dreams, ambitions, and potential. Really, you are. You've shown up. You've shown up every day of this pandemic and long before that as a person with dreams, ambition, and potential. Now, that started somewhere. And I often say that we are born capable of wild, amazing things. We're born capable of this. And we accumulate life experiences that either affirm or deny that potentiality, that confirm or deny that possibility. And so let's go together. Let's take a moment together to really reflect on the first time you really got centered in your mind, your heart, and your gut, and a dream emerged. This happens for many of us when we're very young. And so, just imagine yourself 6, 7, 8 years old. Maybe you were 12, maybe you were a preteen. Maybe you were 18, 19, going to college. Get in tune with yourself. Just take a moment, close your eyes. Imagine young you. Imagine the you that initially generated wild ambition, that initially generated big ass dreams. Imagine you. And I want you to keep your eyes closed for just a second, because we're all alone anyway. I mean, we're in Zoom. We're not in a room. So we're on Zoom. So you've got privacy. You've got a moment here to really be with yourself. Now, center in on that young woman that you imagine, that young girl that you imagine. What did she look like? What was she wearing? Who were the people around her? Say their name in your mind. Imagine the clothing, the haircut. Maybe you had glasses, maybe you had braces. Imagine all of those things. When we invite for our mind imagination, we invite inspiration. So I invite you to imagine. Can you see yourself? Can you see that young woman? If you can, that's good. And if you can't, that's okay. We're going to keep walking through these tools, and you can try it again at a time when you feel safe, when you feel ready. But if you're seeing young you, I want you to try now to remember what she wanted. What did she want? What were the desires that filled that young woman? Allow yourself, give yourself permission right now, right here, right now, eyes closed, to acknowledge those desires, to acknowledge those feelings of want. Did she want to move away to the big city? Did she want a nice car? Did she want to find a career that lit her soul on fire? Did she want to be rich? Did she desire prestige? Did she desire a degree? Did she desire a title? What did she want? see it, know it, own it. I need you to do that because as you open your eyes, we're going to come face to face with ourselves today, ourselves right now. And remembering that little girl and her wants and desires is essential to this being a powerful moment for you. So seal that in. All right, we're going to open our eyes. We're going to open our eyes. If you could see your younger self, if you could feel the wants and desires that you had as a young woman, if you got present with yourself, just give me a hell yeah in the chat. Give me a hell yeah, because if you saw yourself, that means that the kernel of mental health, mental wealth is there. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Good, good. That's what I want to hear. She's there. She's there. Good. Here is part of what happens to all of us over time. We grow up. We go out into the world. We experience failures and successes. We experience jobs and education and relationships and friendships. We experience so much. And slowly but surely, the world starts to tell women, in particular, your desire, your desire should be to fulfill other people's desires. Your wants should make other people feel wanted, to make other people feel important. Your desires, your wants are controversial. My God, how dare you have such big ambitions? How dare you be so out there with your feelings? How dare you want something so much more than what you have right now? Don't be ungrateful. Don't be unappreciative. If you felt this at some point in your life, from the time you were a child to today, if somebody made you feel like your wants and desires were not allowed, I want to hear a yes, I did in that chat. If somebody told you that your job as a woman was to show up in the world and make other people feel wanted, make other people feel important, I want to hear, yes, I did in that chat. If you ever felt controversial or afraid of saying, here is what I want, here is what I need, I want you to say, yes, I did in that chat. And I want you to look at the other people in this chat and I want you to see you were not alone. You are not alone in abdicating your responsibility to your dreams, in abdicating your responsibility to that little girl. And tonight we're taking it back. Tonight we are taking it back. Do you hear me? I'm gonna disappear. It's coming back. It's coming back, everyone. We are taking it back. Okay? So you have seen that younger self. You have seen her dreams. You have seen her aspirations. You are tuned in to what she wanted and desired. Beautiful. That's half the work. That's half the work. You're tuned back in. But let's talk about now how we walk away from today, how we walk away from this evening with a spirit of mental health that is so strong, a sense of self-protection and self-love and self-affirmation that is so strong that anybody that tries to tell you, that dream is too big, that want is too much, desire is very, very controversial, what you need in this world is too much. Everyone who tries to tell you that, you're going to have a note. You are not important to me in the way that she, and by she, I mean that inner young you, that you are going to make young you number one. Young you, number one. Young you is more important than your boss. Sorry, bosses. Young you is more important than your partner. Sorry, partners. Young you is more important than your friends. Sorry, friends. Young you is more important than your parents. Mom and Dad, thank you for bringing me here. Okay. God bless. But we got work to do. We got work to do. So young you is now number one. Okay. So young you being number one. I can honestly tell you that this is hard work. The world, it will test you. It will test you. And I'll tell you like a really quick way to just experience how the world's going to test you on this. All you got to do is write like a Instagram caption about something that you want or desire in life, or, post on Twitter that I imagine being a millionaire someday, or I imagine owning a massive company someday, or as I have said, my ambition, my young you wanted to ring the bell on the New York Stock Exchange and IPO a company. I have that dream. That's mine. That's for me. That's the dream I chase after for myself, for my younger self. And when I think about little Liz, I think about what would make her proud and what would sadden her. And on the days when I allow other people to laugh at my dream, to tell me it's too big or too much, those are the days I let her down. And so let's talk about the tools you can use to really protect those dreams. Number one tool we're going to use. We're going to listen, but we're never going to react to what other people's advice is about our dreams. And this is how you do this. I'm going to sample it out for you right now. Hey, Liz, it's really fantastic that you want to IPO a company, but wouldn't it just be so much better just to build, a good company and then sell that company and, have a good life? Wouldn't that be so much better? We listen. Wow, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate you taking the time to deliver that feedback. Well, yes, but Liz, you got to believe that this is going to be better. This is going to be the thing that's going to make you successful. Thank you for that. Thank you. I hear you. But here is the deal. I decide whether or not I'm successful. You see that? You decide. You decide. Every conversation you have, number one, you listen, you don't react, you don't fight, you decide. I decide if I'm successful. If you feel like you can decide that you're successful, the world is yours, my friend. You will be pulling from a strength in your stomach, a strength in your gut that will terrify a lot of people. Let me tell you, I can tell some of you might even be terrified of me. And that's okay. I know, because I know in my gut that I'm chasing after the thing that is for me. Number two, I want you to write down your wildest ambitions. Put them on paper. Put your wildest ambitions on paper. And once you've put your wildest ambitions on paper, I want you to add 20%. Add 20%. What would it look like to add 20% to your wildest ambition? Why? Why are we going to add 20% to our wildest ambition? Because, my friends, because it turns out that when we are young, we slowly but surely start degrading our ambition. Quit degrading your ambition, add 20%. Quit listening, add 20%. Third and finally, you're going to pick a partner. Maybe they're in this room. Maybe they are in your friendship circle. Maybe there's someone you can text right now and said, I just listened to this crazy bitch, Liz Georgie, on this panel, and she was telling me I need a partner to go after my wildest ambition. In order to honor my young you, in order to honor my young self, I've got to have a partner. You're going to say to that partner, will you hold me accountable for protecting my greatest ambitions? Will you hold me accountable and check in with me and ask me how I'm doing on fulfilling the dreams I have in myself? have those conversations, have a person in your life that you can have that conversation. That's right, add text, that's right. And by the way, be that person for someone else. Be that person. If you got a person in your life, say, and I want to be this for you. What does young you want? What did 11-year-old you want? Tell me about that dream. Tell me how big it was. Tell me how wonderful it was. And then guess what? I want to help you add 20%. Let me help you add 20%. We're going to end with this. 4 years ago, I was in Palm Springs, California with my person, my partner, and her name is Haley. We were in Palm Springs, we were hiking, we were talking about our dreams, and we dreamt up something together. And this is what's magical about having a dreaming partner, is because you start to bounce things off of each other. So I had her and we're talking about our dreams, and we dreamt up the virtual photo shoot, make anybody capable of having a professional photo or video shoot. And in doing that together, we held each other accountable for a whole year on that dream. By the end of that year, we had completed a prototype of what became Suna. Along the way, I was told, "Are you nuts?" by 27 banks, countless venture investors, an unbelievable number of landlords, and so many business contacts. I have what I call now my directory of no's, people who've just said no to me. And what I learned along the way is when I was happiest wasn't when I was trying to figure out how to get other people's no's into yeses, or when I was trying to turn naysayers into champions. When I was happiest, when I was most in tune with myself, when I felt most sure that my purpose in the world was being fulfilled, it was when I was honoring my young self, when I was honoring my biggest ambitions. And so I invite you to find your happiness by finding your wildest ambitions, by honoring your young you, and then adding 20%. So thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope this gave you some fire. I hope this gave you some energy. I hope this gave you some love on your evening. I hope you feel like you touched into something with yourself. And it sounds like we have a couple questions. So the question was, what if I can't remember what I wanted when I was young? I was very shy. Listen, that's okay, because your young you might be you right now. That's a great question, because your young you might be you right now. And this is why having a partner in the world, someone that you can lean on, someone you can talk to, is so important, because if you get in connection with that person, you invite each other to say, I am willing to be brave enough to want the biggest things I can imagine for my life. That young you might emerge today. She might emerge tonight. And then you can go share that 50 years from now when you're old and on the rocking chair on the patio. You'll say, God, can you believe it took me that long to honor myself? But I'm so glad I found her. I'm so glad I found her. I'm so glad I found my dream. Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of this panel. I cannot wait to see what you all do. Please come follow me on social media. I'm at Liz Georgie or at Suna Studios. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was amazing. I see everybody so active in the chat. I hope that energy continues. We're going to introduce the panelists now. First off, again, a big thank you to our sponsor, Periscope. They actually are our key panel sponsor. So thank you so much to Periscope. Kind of starting off here first, we have Angie Ocon. So Angie is our amazing moderator tonight. She is one of the co-founders of Ocon LLC, established back in 2006. She has grown and evolved with that company and has continually expanded the scope that they are able to kind of help and empower women's lives through fitness. From starting out to having no direction at all on where to go within the fitness world to achieving IFBB status, she has dedicated her career to helping others develop a strong mind, body, and sense of self. The belief that the greatest achievement in life is the ability to positively impact the world around you is what drives her to relentlessly create programs, educational tools, and much more to help others live full lives with the focus of longevity. So Angie is going to be our moderator. You can come off camera. So excited. She'll be kind of leading the conversation tonight. And Kim Dunn. Kim is our first panelist we want to introduce, somebody that I've had the privilege to work with in the past. She is the Senior VP of Media and Data Science at Cole McVoy. She is so smart and a self-proclaimed data junkie. She helps oversee the merging of two really key disciplines at Cole McVoy to bring creativity to the table with the use of data and measurement in media. She's leading a ton of great accounts with media, including things like 3M, Zotis, Vermont Creamery, and so much more. So Kim, welcome to tonight. Next up, we have Ami Lathia. She is the Director of Product Management at Target. She is an inclusive and passionate technology leader driving innovative solutions in the ad tech industry. She is super smart, focused on developing data-driven capabilities for marketing specifically. She's got a master's degree in computer science from USC and comes with 12 years plus of experience working at Fortune 100 companies. So you know she knows her stuff. She's a diversity champion and leads DE&I efforts on the board of directors for the Women's Business Council and Marketing Diversity Leadership Committee at Target. Ami, welcome. Thank you so much. You can come off camera. Next up, we have Hope James, who will be on the panel tonight. So Hope is a creative influencer and the founder and owner of Black Bloggers and Creatives. She currently is in Minneapolis, and some of you might recognize her as Minifropolis. Check her out on Instagram. She started out as kind of a local Minneapolis blogger a handful of years ago, recently completing her MBA at Metro State and completing her graduate studies in business management and project management, preparing for a PhD program. So she's a creative entrepreneur who uses her talent to create content for Black bloggers and creatives, including her magazine, blog site, and various social media platforms. So definitely check her out on social media. Hope, thank you so much for coming. You can turn on your camera as well. Next up, and last but not least for our panel tonight, we have Donna Robinson. Donna is the CEO of Collective Measures. She joined the agency in 2012 and has since been responsible for their growth, vision, and strategic leadership, and has really been instrumental in fostering the kind of smart, fun, and innovative culture that makes Collective Measures the incredible place that it is today. So Donna, thank you so much. Welcome. You can turn on your camera as well. I'll do one final reminder before passing the keys of the castle over to Angie. All those in attendance, please, please, please feel free to use the Q&A feature. We will be watching that and try and make sure that we're incorporating that into tonight. So if you have any questions, please drop them there. Be lively in the chat. This should be a really great conversation. So Angie, without further ado, I'll kick it to you.
Angie, I think you're on mute.
It's a great way to start. Great way to start was being muted. So yeah, so that'll set the tone for this entire night. Hopefully you guys enjoy this and you feel very entertained and also encouraged throughout this whole thing. Really quick before we start the questions, I just wanted to say how honored I am to be here. Just to be considered for this position with you guys is huge for me. And also just to be on this panel of women. You guys are incredibly inspiring and you guys have influence. And in my experience, being an influential woman and having that kind of ability to have an impact on other people is the true power that we hold. So being here with you guys and being with these powerful women gives me a little bit of imposter syndrome. So this was something that we have possibly time to talk about tonight. But I think it's a funny thing to think about as women in our roles as leaders. Having that imposter syndrome is like a real thing. And I wanted to just quickly say, as I set the tone for this night, that one of the greatest things you can remind yourself of is your power, and remembering that you have the ability to really do anything that you want in this life. So my girlfriend was like, okay, Angie, humility in women is praised and encouraged so much that it's hard not to judge yourself for thinking that I'm that bitch, right? So I really want everybody tonight, the women on this panel, the women that are just as powerful, I'm sure, in the audience that we can't necessarily see, and the men, be reminded that I want you guys to be unapologetic. I want you guys to be interactive with us. And I really want you guys, like my panelists on here tonight, to just really be that bad bitch, be that person, and fully step into your power. And I'm really excited to be here, and we will go ahead and get this whole thing started. I think someone mentioned that they can't see anybody, so I'm not sure if that's on our end. So I'm going to start our questions. And I know you ladies are ready to answer. I think we have the list out. So the first question that we have tonight is, how can companies foster an environment that is supportive of mental health and enable employees to feel safe sharing their struggles? So one of the big things that I think is important, especially with a time where we're all working from home. So I don't know if any of you guys have a lot of experience with having to support employees. I personally don't really, because I work from home and it's just me and one other person. But I'd love to know any of the panelists right now, if you guys have a response to ways that you've supported mental health within the company and make your employees feel safe.
I can share a little bit. I feel like, pandemic has really changed the ways that we work, and it has created this isolated experience, which is truly antithesis to how humans are wired to function. And so it is becoming so much more important to develop that connection, to be able to have a sense of community where we feel that we are engaged with each other. And so I think when pandemic happened, I work for Target, which is based off in downtown, and Target always took a very conservative approach in terms of bringing everyone back to office, given how it's connected through skyways and things like those. And so we knew that this was probably going to go for a long period of time when we would not be able to see our team members, our peers in person. And so I think at the very initial stage, we came up with this framework of really investing in our teams, keeping that as the core focus for anything and everything that we do, because we were anticipating multiple changes coming downstream. So we had this sense of purpose to ensure that we are setting up timelines, connecting with not just our team members, but our peers, our stakeholders, our partners, and not just asking, how are you? And expecting a response of I'm good, but also ensuring that we are very strategic and investing time to ask very thoughtful questions in terms of, how are you feeling? What is it that I can do for you? Know them better as people, as team members, so that you're able to get that sense of trust between each other and create that space for us to be able to share our strengths, our good days, our bad days, and have each other's back. So I think that sort of really helped to ensure that we are investing in our teams, because everything will follow up. Without teams, it's kind of hard to succeed. And so I think that was one of the things that we diligently ensured to have and make sure that we are meeting together as teams as much as often. Second, I think that was very, very helpful was creating a shared sense of purpose in terms of what we are here to do. We used to work on gazillion priorities when we were working in office, but I think after pandemic happened, everyone was feeling stressed out in some ways or the other, and everyone was trying to juggle between so many different roles. And so it became important to just ensure that we are creating focused areas where we need to really work through and are empowered to say no, so that we are really creating a framework where our team members feel that they understand where they can drive value, but at the same point of time, they don't feel burnout. So I think these were the two areas where we really created a framework in investing in our teams and investing in sense of a purpose that helps us drive through pandemic.
Love that. That's amazing. Kim, did you say you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I think I love that. And like building on that, I think that idea of just talking about it and normalizing talking about mental health, and that's been something I've been so appreciative at Cole McVoy, that there's been so many outlets to discuss how you're feeling, and that up to the highest levels. And, you know, myself as an emerging leader, taking that step to be like, I'm going to talk about this when I take a sick day because I mentally can't do it. I'm going to say that, just like I would say I had a cold. I'm going to say I'm taking today off because I'm mentally not well. And it took me so long in my career to feel comfortable. You know, I've had anxiety since a young age, but to feel comfortable that I can say that without somebody saying, oh, maybe she can't handle her job and maybe she can't cut it. And I don't have any of that fear anymore. And so now if I can feel comfortable saying that, I hope that that can inspire more junior people to feel learn from a much younger age than I did, that that's totally fine. And if they take that time for themselves, there's no black mark on their record. There's no judgment from that. It's take care of yourself and get better.
Right. I love that. I think that that's something that to be able to say that the reason why you aren't doing something. I used to do this where I'd be like, oh, I don't feel good. But really my mental health was what was deterring me from whatever it was that I had going on that day. And to be able to be like, I just mentally can't do this. I feel like that's a powerful place for us to be moving towards. So I love that. Go ahead, Hope.
All right. First of all, I want to say thank you to AdFed for this opportunity. Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So to answer your question, the first thing is this year, actually, starting January, I traveled a lot and I told my employers that I want a break. Okay, I think it's very important that we provide employees with a lot of breaks. And I think because this is our first pandemic, I don't know if anyone have ever experienced any other pandemic, but this is my first pandemic and I've heard stories about it before. And I think I was in a shock, plus, with the Black movement that happened in 2020. So all of that happening at the same time, it was like, wow, this is really happening. So when January started, I told my employers, like, I would love to have a break. I think it's very important that we provide a lot of breaks. Another thing I really encourage is to provide counselors, mental health counselors to employees. For the first time, I actually sat down with a life coach to map out and have those deep conversations that I have personally, I've been running away from. And actually it helped me this year. I can tell you, like, I was able to cry some of my feelings out. And when I started feeling better, I went back to my employer and said, I think this is a great thing to provide everyone in my team. And I was so shocked that my employers actually provided enough financial opportunities for people to speak to life coaches, whether a therapist or a life coach. And I think it's a very resourceful thing that we definitely encourage employees to speak to somebody, because not everybody will be open to say, oh, I'm doing great, oh, I'm doing fine. They might just shy away. For example, I had to mourn a lot of people that died from COVID-19. Nobody knew about it but my coach. But I didn't know how to mourn. I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know how to do any of those things because everybody just kept dropping dead. I don't know if that makes sense. But, and I know a lot of people that have experienced similar things and they can share that with coworkers or management or, anybody. So I definitely encourage employers to provide that platform, that safe space where employees can go in and have those deep conversations and relieve themselves, period.
Right. Yeah. I think that the ability to have counselors, I think that therapy has always been a taboo thing. I think finally we're in a place where people are like, yeah, I'm going to go see a counselor. I'm going to go see a therapist. And I grew up in an area where it was like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you need to go see somebody? And now it's like, no, I'm improving myself. This is part of our mental health is just as important as our physical health. So I think that's a great thing for, companies to provide that kind of service for their employees if they so choose, but also to kind of, like you guys said, make a safe space for people to feel comfortable. Like, yes, I need to take care of my mental health. I need to get therapy. And I can take days where I'm like, I don't feel like I can mentally be here today. I think that's a really powerful move for the direction that we're all trying to go with mental health. Donna, did you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think as leaders, as we're going through this, and I know it's really important to set a good example and say, I'm going to block my calendar today as a leader, and I'm going to set that example so that other people know it's okay. Because so many employees are like, they need permission, even if you tell them, because we got everyone together and said, we know this is wearing on everyone. We know that, your hours don't reflect the stress, that there's a lot of, video fatigue. I don't know how many of you have been online since like 8:30 this morning, but you can only do it for so many hours without walking away. So it's literally encouraging things like go take a walk. We have chat rooms at work that are more interest-based. We encourage people to do that. Guess what? If you are all like foodies, we want you to get online and talk about that, things like that. So it's really encouraging an environment that's not only talking about your mental health, but giving you outlets to improve your mental health throughout the day and not feel so isolated. And then if someone does come and raise their hand and say, I need some time, not just giving them the time off, but coming back and saying, are you okay now? So really connecting with that person and making sure they know that we care about them, I think is really vital. It's having those people at work. There are so many statistics that say people stay and work with people where they have friends. So it's really making sure you're reaching out to friends and telling them or telling your supervisor if things aren't okay. And as leaders, we want to create an environment that's better than the one we had. So keep that in mind. Just because things were done a certain way doesn't mean that has to be the way moving forward. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree. A lot of the old ways of thinking, I think, have kind of died, hopefully, where the hustle, the nonstop, like work until you're dead. I grew up with that mindset of like, I'd have a boss be like, well, if you're not doing something, find something to do, which there are some moments where it's like, I could be working when I was younger, but at the same time, like being able to take that break, like you were saying, Hope, taking a break. But also saying, if someone is asking you how you're doing, we always respond, I'm good, like I'm fine. But to be able to really have that safe space to be able to say, you know what, I'm not good. And to have those, like you said, outlets where it's like, okay, if you're not good, here are some things maybe that will help with that. So one of the other questions that we wanted to discuss is, what are some of the ways that you've been able to successfully check in with your peers at work or from home that are working from home? Do you guys have any ways that you guys have kind of used to check in with each other and make sure, you're good? I know that we talked about this, the what was it, house party app. I know some people would do like happy hour, and that'd be kind of the way to check in with each other. That was a fun way. Do you guys have any different things that you did to kind of check in with each other's mental health outside of, because you're not in the workspace? No?
I think one of the ways that we have done that is to just make sure that, we are getting together, celebrating wins, ensuring we are getting to know them better, to be able to ask those questions and again, build that safe space and trust. At the same time, I think also just taking observational cues sometimes, right? You know how a person shows up on a good day. And there are times when you feel that, it doesn't look like a good day for them, right? So making sure that, even if they are not reaching out or they don't feel safe sharing that out, but just being very cognizant about taking those cues and then reaching out with your team members or peers to just check in and see if there is anything that you can help with, given that it doesn't look like it's a good day for them. So I think just being very aware about who you're working with and knowing them, to be able to know, when it works and when it doesn't work.
I love what you were saying, Donna, about kind of making like the group chat about foodies that really encourages spend some work time to connect to each other just as people. And we've been really enjoying that at Cole McWay. That's something that we've really dialed up, not just as kind of huge agency events that are a little bit more of like, come come talk about your feelings and spend your time kind of together talking about this. But we've repurposed a lot of, a department meeting instead of talking about kind of usual department updates and things like that. We did a lot of, especially kind of in the heat of the darkest times that we had in the city, of like, we're not going to talk about any of that right now. Like, how are we all doing? And people started to feel a lot more comfortable saying like, I'm really scared. I found an explosive in the plant outside of my apartment building, and just I'm really scared, and that's weighing on me. And it helped us, see some areas of like, hey, maybe that presentation's not going to get done this week because this person's scared out of their mind to get it done. So it helped us break down some walls, see where things, are really struggling. And it was great to feel really supported of use agency time to do that. Use your day to do that. This doesn't have to be an after hours thing. We also got access to a great kind of new company called Groups, which helps facilitate these different conversations with new people, and that's been really helpful as well.
Love that. Any other ways that you guys? I hope, is your hand up or is it down? Okay, so
we're all turning the hand. Yeah.
But Donna, what you said too about in like the workspace and having those friendships, I think people really do enjoy having a space where they feel like people actually give a shit about them, right? Like you go into work and people aren't just like, what's up? Like, how are you? But they're genuinely like, how are you? How was your weekend? And then that gives you that feeling and that space of like, okay, I know that if I'm having a bad day, I can tell my coworkers that I'm just like, I can't do this. And it's not going to be a space of judgment or someone being like, oh, did you hear so-and-so? But being like, okay, I respect that. Like, we're here to support you. And feeling that support is so important with mental health. So love all of that. So we're going to move on to our next question. And one of the other questions we kind of already touched on. So this is something I really love to talk about. So the question is, society has certain expectations of women, right? So how have these societal expectations affected your mental health or affected mental health for women? And as leaders, I think you guys can kind of see how within your industry, we have society standards of what we're supposed to do, whether it's a mom who's working and the expectations she has, or being a boss and maybe someone thinking that you're being, a bitch because you're very assertive. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about how society expectations affect mental health.
I think it's kind of in that title of the, I'm good. I think that there's an expectation for women that we're going to throw it all at you and you're going to stay good. Like you're going to kind of take it and you're going to keep it together, and the house is going to be in order. The kids are going to be perfect. The job's going to be perfect. You're going to keep fighting for that promotion and the next thing and the next thing. And all of it's going to just keep juggling in the air. And it makes you feel that much more the failure when something's not going well, when you're struggling with something. And I know that there were several points, I'm a mom, 2 kids at home, they're school age. And there were several points during this pandemic with the school age thing that I felt I was failing at every single thing. And a lot of it was the expectation that I perceived was on me that really wasn't real. That's really hard. There were times I wanted to work until 9 because I needed space from my kids. And you feel horribly guilty about that. Like, of course, I love my kids. I should want to be around them all the time. And then you take that time for the kids and you feel horribly guilty about who you're letting down at work. And that's just a hard thing to kind of keep juggling with, that you constantly feel like somebody's getting the short end of the stick here.
I think one of the biggest fallacies is this whole thing about women feeling like, oh, you're supposed to be able to do it all. We're only humans. Something has to give. I had 3 young kids, a career, all of it. You can have everything. You just can't have everything all at one time. There's give and take to each piece. So I think it's about stepping back and deciding what you really want and what you're willing to give to get there, and making sure that the people around you are aware of it. And your spouse, your partner, whoever is involved is also involved in that decision making. I think the best article I ever read was an article in the Wall Street Journal about this whole fallacy of women feeling like you're supposed to be able to have this great career, this great family, this picture of success in the ad industry, this idea that we're on 24/7, which I'm not sure where that came from, but that all wears us down. And it's the idea that you can't do it all at one time. You may want to stage it out in your career and in your life. I took a job very intentionally when my kids were little on the client side so that I could leave at a certain time every night. I didn't have to travel as much. So it's really stepping back and figuring out what point in time in your life and in your career you are and what you want to give at that point. So being very intentional about it, because otherwise it'll just take you over and it'll decide for you instead of you deciding for it. So
Yeah, love that.
I wanted to say also, as women, at times I feel like there's this unrealistic expectation about being a boss. And for example, I started my company in 2019, and I felt like there was a lot of glass ceilings that I had to like literally shatter. And, you know, also representing a community of, you know, the Black community, that's how I started, trying to raise the voice for us and speak about how it is and how important it is to close the gap in Minnesota. However, at the same time, I felt like I was being shut down. And I was also expected to be this strong woman and have no feelings. And that was a lot for me. And at the same time, I felt like everybody kept throwing things on me as a leader without thinking of how I feel. Like, nobody stopped to ever think like, how does she feel? Is she okay? You want me to show up to all these things. You want me to do all these things. But at the same time, there is this limitation that I'm trying to break, you know? And I think sometimes having that unrealistic expectation that as women, we should be strong and we should be bold, we should be able to do all these things. At the same time, we're trying to break this glass ceiling. Yes, there is a glass ceiling in every industry as women. And people not checking on us or our fellow men not helping us reach our goals, it can be very challenging to our mental health. And I've dealt with stuff like this for almost 2 years. And this is the first time in 2021 where I admitted that I needed a break. I had to pause my organization. And I know a lot of women had to do that, to just first of all, deal with their feelings so that they can show up the best. Do you get what I mean? Because if you don't deal with those feelings, you start to show up not your best. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
I just feel like as women, we should be treated with a certain respect as men are being treated in every industry. And I feel like sometimes we are not given that opportunity, and that affects our mental health. And we take that to our homes. We don't know how to express ourselves sometimes. And unfortunately, it is what it is. And I don't know if it will ever change, but it is what it is for now.
I think speaking about it the way we are is one of the things that directs change, is talking about it and vocalizing it. But what you were saying too is when you were talking about how I usually say this is, you can't pour from an empty cup. So a lot of the time we're expected to do all of these things. We're expected to be a certain way, but it's hard. You can't be the best boss, mom, whatever your roles are that you have in life. You can't be all of those things if you're not pouring back into you. And that's extremely vital for you to just be happy, but to also be a good leader. If you show up at work and you haven't done the things that you need to do for yourself, how do you expect to, give to your employees and the people around you if you're on E? Really quickly, there was a question, and then I'm going to come to you, Ami. We have a question about tips about how to deal with feeling guilty and letting go and letting things go. And I'm going to let Kim, you were talking about like the guilty feeling, and what are some tips, any of you guys, and we'll come back to you, Ami, of what you do to kind of let go of that guilty feeling. I feel that way sometimes too, when I'm like, I need a day, but I have a million things to do. And lately, I'm just going to be honest, this is my thing, and then I'll bring it to you, Kim. I'm literally like, fuck it. Like, I care about me right now. Y'all can deal with whatever today. I'll be back tomorrow. But when I come back tomorrow, I'll be 100. But today I'm not here. So that's my thing. I'm just like, fuck it. I need to take care of me. So go ahead, Kim.
I know. I wish I had. That's an amazing answer. I feel like I wish that I like had all the answers on this that I could share with all of you. I don't. I definitely still struggle with this, but yeah, I think something that I did learn a little bit in learning to manage my anxiety is that idea of really recognizing the really damaging talk track that my brain can put me on. That says those things of, I can't believe you want to work right now. You must be a terrible mother. You must not love your kids. That says those things. And like being like, that's ridiculous. Like treating it like another person and be like, no, that's a ridiculous thing to say. That's not true. That's obviously not true. So kind of walking myself back from those things and realizing, no, it's okay that I want to work right now. I enjoy my job. I want to work right now. The kids are fine. They're taken care of. They're totally happy. Everything's okay. Like that's the truth, not the talk track that my brain just like sped against.
Yeah. Self-talk is a thing. We could talk about that. I could talk about self-talk all day, but as it is really important how we speak to ourselves. And when you do take it from that perspective, okay, if someone else is saying this, how would you interpret that? So we should learn how to have that, give ourselves grace. We don't have to be all things all the time. And it's okay if we're human because we're fucking humans. We're not Wonder Woman. Okay. Ami, go ahead.
Can I add one more thing to that? Guilt is not a productive emotion. I mean, it really isn't. Unless you're going to sit there and take away from it and say, I'm going to change something in the future. Feeling guilty is just draining your energy. I mean, truly. So when you feel guilty about something like that, just sit there and go, okay, I'm either going to change it or I'm not, and move on. It's not worth your time. It really isn't. I just see so many people beating themselves up. It's not worth it. So
yeah, I agree.
That's my two cents.
Just to add to that, right? It's guilty because we are holding ourselves to the standards that someone else has set those for us, right? Versus actually staying true to what we can do in that moment of time. And so, I have a 2.5-year-old boy. He was born just a few months before pandemic. So being in full-time job and being a new mother, having the kid at home because of pandemic. It was a lot to take in, but I think over a course of time, just making sure that I'm asking for help, because asking for help is not a bad thing, and setting up those expectations in terms of how people can lean in and share responsibilities, whether those are friends or families. And also making sure that I'm modeling the same behavior when I'm at work, right? Because if I have a team member, a peer who is a new mother who is working full-time, if I continuously end up working tirelessly, I'm setting up a wrong behavior for someone on my team, and I'm not showing up the right way. So I think just saying out that, I need to take time off, I need to focus on my family, I'm not feeling good, or I need help, I need someone else to step in for me. I think modeling those behaviors is one of the important aspects to ensuring that you're building that healthy team culture going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of I'm good and being able to ask for help, those go together because I do it all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And if I'm not good, I'll be good eventually. But it should be okay for us to say, I'm not good and I need help. And I know it's like an ego thing, I think. It's hard for me to ask for help even now. And I'm like, I know I should just ask for help with things. But if we're able to, again, have those people around us and the workspaces that encourage us to, vocalize our, issues and concerns, I think it puts us in a safe space to ask for help when we need it. We had one other question. Someone asked, on the flip side, what can an employee do to help create that space or advocate for it in the workspace? So I'm assuming they're talking about the freedom to, or like your stress relief. So what is something that the employees can do to help create space for that? Do you guys have any insight on that? What employees can do? I think you talked about giving them a break to go for a walk.
Use your calendar as your friend. Like we encourage people to block your calendar and everyone else respect the block, right? If it can't wait an hour, and every once in a while there is emergency, but how many of them do we create on our own? Let's be honest. So respect the block and allow people the grace to go relax for an hour or take a break, because it's even more important. I think in the pandemic, I read a good study that productivity has increased, but creativity productivity has gone down. We don't have that time to think and to interact with people in the same way. So it's just really making sure we respect the boundaries other people put up as well.
That's the key word, boundaries. I feel like for me, because I'm also an employer, what I did was I have a lot of contractors that I used to work with. What I did for them this year, I told them like, take a break this year. We have worked so hard from 2019 all the way to the end of 2020. And I was like, you guys just take a break. Just take a break, do whatever you want. And then when we reconnect back in 2022, we'll have a fresh mind. And I feel like it's the reason why I keep emphasizing breaks, because I traveled a lot this year. I don't even believe that I could leave Minnesota and go to different countries. And while I was taking all of these breaks, you know, of course, I still answer to some people, but, you know, I'm happier. You can see my face. It's, you know, I'm happier. I'm able to show up to my presentation. I'm able to talk to people properly, you know, not feeling anxiety, not feeling guilty about anything. And also setting boundaries, like healthy boundaries. If I say I can do something at a certain period, I can do something. I think boundaries are something that we need to really emphasize in our generation a lot, because people don't get it. When you say, I can do this, I think it's very important to also define what your boundaries are so that they get it. That's very important.
Yeah, I think that's people get confused when you talk about a boundary, because they're like, well, how do you, okay, so you say what your boundary is, but how do you enforce that boundary? Like, what are the, I guess, repercussions if you don't abide by the boundary? There's different ways, but I think people get confused because like, well, how do you respect boundaries? Kim, go ahead.
I think, you know, one thing that I think has been amazing during this kind of virtual time that I hope that we can keep is that we learned this idea of not pushing people to be on camera if they don't want to be. And I hope that that's something that stays, of like, if somebody needs a day where they're a little invisible, or, you know, I can't have you read my face today. Like, I'm going to have, you know, resting bitch face or whatever it is. I'm going to have that all day, and I need to like have my space. I really appreciate it. And it's giving me a little bit of anxiety of like, man, when I go back to work, like people are going to see my expressions all the time. And that's extremely stressful. So I think keeping that would be amazing, of giving us kind of that kind of boundary of just like, I'm here, but I'm not at that level today. So like, I need my day of like, I'm going to work, but like in my sweats without makeup. And I might have full expressions that are maybe a little unfiltered.
Yeah. It gives you the ability to show up, but show up how you feel comfortable that day. So you don't necessarily have to be like, I have to take the day off. I can still work. I just don't want to be around people. I know when I've had an emotional week or something really rough I'm dealing with, and I cry, I cry all the time. I'm a Cancer, but if you're super emotional, it's really hard to be in front of the camera and be like, people are like, oh, are you good? You look puffy. Are you tired? It's like, no, I've been crying. You don't want to have to explain that to people. So I do love that. So we're going to move on to a different question. I think this really goes with the conversation. So in this industry that praises the hustle culture, which I think is like so many industries do, but I know this one does specifically, to get ahead. What advice would you give about setting boundaries between work and your home life? Who would like to start with this great question? Anybody?
Donna like popped a masterclass already.
Right.
Donna said something earlier about blocking your calendar,
right,
and also setting realistic goals and be flexible with your goals. I think it's very important. I used to be very rigid. Like, I'm like, this is what it's gonna be. I don't care what nobody say. But after the pandemic, like my whole perspective of life have completely shifted. Like, I'm able to differentiate between my home and my work life. And just like Donna said, set goals, you know, have clear routines. I think having a clear routine, when you start to develop healthy routines, you are able to follow them properly, but be flexible. I think it's also very important because life happens. Not taking the kids to the daycare, maybe somebody should help you. Like, throwing help a little bit can also help, like, set realistic goals. And I feel like from January to November, I've been able to achieve 80% of my 2021 goals because I set realistic goals. I started to create habits that I feel like it's very important to create those routine habits that will help you move, get things done quicker. And I think as leaders, as CEOs, you guys understand the importance of having routines because you have targets to meet, you have quarterly goals to meet, and you have earnings to earn. So I think when you're able to block things out, create realistic goals, put things on paper, you're actually able to get things done. That's my answer for that question.
Yeah, I think routine is everything. I've worked from home before the pandemic. I worked from home, and it can be very isolating. But you do learn when you have the freedom to like, I can do whatever I want, but that doesn't mean I can. But to have that structure and to have that schedule is so important. But I've noticed too, especially when the pandemic happened, I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, I'm already in this world of being at home all the time. Also figuring out how to get out of your house too, like to go do something, like go to the gym now, like now the gyms are open, but like go separate that workspace. Like I work in my kitchen. So I need to figure out that, I think a lot of time we have to figure out that way to kind of separate ourselves from that space, and like maybe have your designated work spot in the house. Most people have an office, which I do. I don't ever use it, but also just having that separation of being at home or at work and going and doing other things. Like I live in a building where I can go in other rooms and kind of just hang out. And I feel like it makes me turn off my brain a little bit, so I'm not like work mode constantly. So I think that's a good way too. So we do have a question. So how do you balance your mental health at work while trying to show up and prove yourself through work and not seem too vulnerable?
I think that we have to separate the idea that that you're strong and capable with the idea of struggling with mental health, that those are that one means that you're not the other. I think it took me so long to realize that, because it was constantly this, if I show that I'm vulnerable, if I talk about this, then I will have this black mark, I will get this label of I can't handle it. And it's really not true. I think that if you were to have this conversation with, I know, if I had it with my boss or our CEO or anything like that, like there would be, that doesn't exist. It's not real. It's a thing that we're making up. And so I think separating those two things of being vulnerable, being open with anything you're struggling with. I do not believe if you're at a place that deserves you, will mark against you and prevent your growth.
I believe that there is power in vulnerability. I 100% think that if you are able to be open with how you're feeling, what you're going through, there's power in that. It doesn't mean that you're weak if you're going through things. I feel like if you're able to be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. I don't feel good. I feel this, I feel that. Here are my emotions. There's power to be able to do that. And it's a powerful place to have employees and people around you that feel that safety to be able to say that to you. So anybody else?
I think if people aren't, I don't know, if you see other people and you're like, oh, they make it look easy, you're just not seeing what's going on inside them. Everybody's struggling. It doesn't matter at what level, all the way from my entry level job to the job I'm in now, you're always faced with some new challenge that you're going to have to try to achieve, overcome. And if you really start asking people, you'll find out they're struggling just like you. So don't assume that all these women just like have it all figured out. We're all struggling with something. And so I think the sooner we all realize that and start asking the people around us how you can help and learn to be honest and lean on each other, it's just going to be a different experience. But, so many times we're intimidated as women because we're like, they have it all together, or they have it all together. You know what? Nobody has it all together. So just realize that and accept it.
Yep. There's a power in that too, to come together in that space and to be able to be like, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Everyone's making it until they make it. But yeah, that's to be able to lean on each other too in that space, I think is really important as well. So moving on to another question that I think is really important. How do we identify the burnout within our teams? Like, how can we support knowing that teams are burning out or your employees are burning out? How do you support them when you're noticing those characteristics?
It's important for organizations to, I actually answered this in the research paper. I think it's important for organizations to, first of all, put in place a system where employees shouldn't even be burnt out, you know, because if your employees get to a point where they are burnt out, they will never give themselves 100%. And I think just from experience, you know, working in an organization like the financial organization where I was burnt out the whole time and there was no structure in place, I wish they had put something in place for us to not get burnt out. Because if you've ever worked, for example, I worked in a branch as an assistant branch manager, and you have to meet certain goals. And I was, before even Monday start, I was already mentally burnt out before I showed up. And I wish the organization had put in place like taking breaks. Again, we're going back to this break, taking a lot of breaks, giving us more options, because sometimes in some organizations, they give you a limited amount of breaks you can take in a year. I think they should increase that, because 144 hours is not enough, because a lot of things happen. And I feel like if we can increase that, where employees can take more breaks to rest and give them opportunities to, be more flexible with the schedules, like things like scheduling, more flexibility. I'm happy that I can work from home, but there's some people that can't work from home. And I know how extreme it is in the financial industry where they are going back to back. I don't even think they had the opportunity to work from home. So I can only imagine how burnt out they are. So I think it's very important that organization provides systems, because the traditional way is no longer working. We need to bring something new in place to help employees not even get to the point of being burnt out in the first place. That's it.
Respect that answer. Anybody else?
I think to add on top of that, making sure that, again, to what Donna said, like every person might be going through something different in their journey at different points in time, right? So we might, end up setting some process to ensure that we are focusing on our key priorities, breaking down the work in such a manner that it's still something that the teams can really rally behind. But in addition to that, also ensuring that you're setting time with your team members and constantly asking the question in terms of how you're feeling. Are you feeling burnt out? If there are other things that are happening at this point of time and you need to take time off, let me know how I can lean in, or probably take that work away at this point of time, or break it down in a way that it makes it easier for you to address it. So just being very, very diligent about having these conversations, because we don't see each other in person, and Zoom just gives you only a very tiny peek into, what you look like or what you're going through. And so it's kind of hard to gauge the emotions, and hence just being very, very, thoughtful about having those conversations, not just once in time, but having those conversations regularly, just to make sure that the teams are feeling very, successful and confident about, really looking forward.
Yeah, safe communication where you feel comfortable expressing. Yeah, Kim?
Yeah, I think you're building on that. A huge aspect of that too, I think, is making sure that those conversations are completely firewall separated from performance conversations. But that you're taking both in account. I think something that was a great reminder in this time was when you saw, somebody that, maybe was a really steady employee that, had some performance problems, is making sure to take that minute and be like, I wonder, like, what's going on there? Like, I don't think that they just overnight became a bad employee or it's a problem. Like, there's probably something different going on there. So making sure that we're kind of thinking of those things together, but having those conversations very separately, so that when you ask that question of, do you need more help? Is there something we need to change in your workload or how we're thinking about things, that they don't have in the back of their mind, like, I'm not going to get the promotion because I said I need help, or I'm saying I can't get there, I can't handle it. That we have to set that stage of those are completely separate conversations.
I love that, Kim, because more often than not, actually they're clubbed together. And I think we have to be very intentional of keeping them separate, and making sure that you can have same person going through multiple different shades of emotions on different days. And so, never combining that performance review with, how you might be at one point of time, feeling burnt out or might need help. So great point.
So you guys, we're running out of time. So we're coming up to the end of this, and I really want to keep asking questions. So I think one way to kind of wrap up, I think this is a good question for everybody. I really wish we had more time. I'm really enjoying listening to you guys. What is the best advice to give the next generation of female leaders? So if you guys can sit and think on this, what is the advice that you would give to the future generation? I think mine, really quick, and then we can move on, is as far as like mental health goes and the stigma of society, this has been my mindset with my career, is to do whatever the fuck you want. And I'm sorry, I try not to be super vulgar with swearing, but you really do have to just, when it comes to your mental health, do what you need for you. Don't listen to what other people tell you to do. Don't listen to, you know, what society tells you you're supposed to be doing, what the timeline of your life is supposed to be. I truly believe that as a female, as a leader, the future generation should focus more on what makes them happy and doing the things that really set their soul on fire. So that's mine. Moving on.
I think for me, it would be, you're the next emerging leaders. Think about very intentionally about the leader you want to be. For me, I want to create the work environment. I have 3 daughters that I didn't have growing up and I didn't have coming up in my career. I want to create a much more flexible work environment where they can have families and still have a good career and not have to make some of the hard choices I had to make. So think very intentionally about when you become a leader, what kind of leader you want to be, what kind of environment you want to foster, because you can touch so many lives and make so many people, better in their career and better as people if you think about it very intentionally. So start now thinking about that and work towards it as you aspire throughout your career.
Yeah, I have one more thing to just add to that. I want to say, take it easy. I think it's very important to take it easy on yourself and don't rush. I don't know why there's this adrenaline that wants you to rush through everything. Take your time, plan it. There's I know I want to quote somebody, but his name is Rick Ross. He's a rapper, and he said something in a video recently. He said, he would rather that something takes time to create something with time rather than rush through it. I'm just paraphrasing. So take time to plan your organization. Don't rush through it. Don't burn yourself out. Take time. Don't listen to people. Listen to your intuition. If you need to learn, go learn about a particular subject before you bet your organization. So take time, listen to your intuition, and do what your heart tells you. That's it.
Kim?
This is so hard.
I know you got something.
This idea that time for you and only you is equally important and valuable as time for work or time for family. To Donna's point of kind of the way we were probably coming up in our career was this idea of like, when you don't have a family, then you're the one that can stay all night and do the work. And, the parents need to go home for their family. Like, it's wrong on both sides. Like, your time then is valuable to be you. And my time now that I have a family it's not all forfeit unless I'm going to go be with my family. I should be able to have time too, where I'm watching Survivor, like just me and just doing my binge thing, or doing a puzzle or doing what I need to do for me. That it's not just only if you have a family emergency, then you cannot work. So making sure that, think of your time in that way, consider your time valuable, and don't feel that you need to be the hustle.
Yeah, time is the most valuable thing that we have, truly. Ami?
Yeah, for me, from my own some of successful, or I would say from my own stories, what I've seen is that when it comes to your ambition, take risks. If someone takes a bet on you, take it, even if you feel you're not ready for it. Life is just too short to play it safe. And every time you end up taking risk, you'll end up with something that you never expected. So take chances, take risk, and don't play safe.
Love that. My thing too lately, my big thing is don't stop playing small. Like as women, I feel like we really try to play small. And what's wrong with being big? If people can't handle your size, then they can go find something small.
Love that.
So
Angie, I have like 10 quotes that I want to like print and put on
Me?
pillows all over my house. Yes. Oh my gosh.
just rattling off. We did have one more question. Do we have time for it?
Go for it.
Okay, so the last one is, and
That's
I
okay.
can't answer this one because I'm not going back to the office, I hope, unless I get another job, which I don't plan on doing. So we're talking so much about relationships and the work in the virtual world. Would love to hear what the panelists have to say about returning to the office and how they would feel about that. I would not want to do that. I would not
I think
like.
I went on about one of my core feelings is I need some time where I can not wear makeup and be in my PJs. So I definitely am down for more of that flex opportunity. I love going in right now. We're able to go in sometimes, and I love that time to see people. I like, sometimes wearing my heels, doing my hair, like all that, having that bigger separation between kind of work and being at home. That's harder to get when you're here. But I've found great productivity in being at home as well. And so I think we've learned some amazing things of how we can be productive and functional in this way. And I want to keep best of both worlds. I want my cake and eat it too, I think.
I really do think that the way that COVID has changed our world a little bit is that we now have this ability to kind of do both, where you can do some time where you're working from home and you can do some time, I don't know why I'm saying it like that, and you can work in the office as well. I think that that's the future is really virtual. Like, look we just did this entire panel and we're all sitting in our own spaces. So yeah. Anybody else have any feedback on going back to the office, or are you cutting us off, Grace?
I agree
Nope,
with you,
not
Angie.
cutting you off at all.
Callie,
Keep
sorry.
going. You're good.
I agree with you, Angie. I think organizations should provide employees with both options, the ability to work from home and to go to the office. I think it would be great. It will also help that employee to be more productive because they know they have options. Like, I have the option to travel the world now. Like, I'm happy. I'm gone. I'm not in Minnesota right now, so I'm under this. I'm under the sun. I'm happy. I'm excited. So I don't want to go back. So giving employees that option would help them a lot. And I mean, we did work from home, and I feel like employees will be more happier. And it will also, funny enough, it will also help with their mental health, whether we agree or not. That's what I think.
Yeah, all in for happy hours and lunches. So
Yeah,
that works.
Love that.
I think that's all of our questions. I mean, I have a million that I wrote down that we were never going to get to, but I really enjoyed, I'm so grateful that we had this tonight. I really enjoyed asking you guys all these questions and hearing your answers. You guys are amazing. And I'll give it to you, Callie.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Angie. That was an amazing conversation. And thank you again to everyone for coming. We hope you found the discussion meaningful and helpful. Let's get it going in the chat one last time for our amazing speakers. Let them know how much you appreciate them, because again, without their input and everything that they had to say, including Liz Georgie's great keynote and this great panel, just amazing to hear from all these awesome professionals. So again, couldn't do it without you. Again, so there will be an email coming out after this event with if you want to keep this conversation going with a mental health professional, we'll be sharing out some resources, and they're on your screen now if you want to jot them down. Otherwise, they'll be coming via email. Additionally, in that email, there will be a survey, and we would absolutely love it if you take a moment to give us some feedback on what you thought about this event. That will help us continue to improve our programming, both the rest of this year and for next year's panel as well. And finally, one last thank you to our sponsors, Element, Broadhead, Periscope, Cole McVoy, Bold Orange, True Media, and Whitebox. We appreciate your support of this event. And again, without these types of sponsors, we wouldn't have any programming at all. So definitely, again, really appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you and have a great night. Keep an eye out for the email. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, everyone.